Alrighty, here we go. Hello, everyone. G'day, everyone, and welcome to this third stream of should have been on the album, third live stream for the year of 2024. Hopefully, you guys are out there and you can see me, so this is good. I'm trying, shifting things up a little bit, trying a few different things, and hopefully, this live stream is getting better. I don't know, but we'll find out as we go. So, from wherever you are, welcome to the stream. So what we do in the live stream is we talk about the videos that I've released over the last month. And this month I released 3 videos. Normally it's just the 2 once every 2 weeks and a couple of short forms. But this week there was an April Fool's Day one. I had to do it. And we're going to be looking at that one a little bit more as well. And what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be looking at some of the music news that has come out, particularly the stuff that relates to, I guess, my generation, Gen X's. Hello, shout out to all the Gen X's out there. But if you're not of the Gen X vintage and you're here, you are definitely in the right place to discover some great music. And it's just great to have you along as well. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, just drop it into the live stream. I'd love to chat with you and talk more about the things that you want to talk about. Otherwise, it's just me talking for however long I decide to do this live stream. Here in Australia, on the eastern coast, daylight savings has finished. So we wound our clocks back an hour. It feels like we've got a little bit more sunshine at the start of the day, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot darker at night. So if you've managed to get an hour's sleep in, well done to you. I hope you've enjoyed an extra hour in your day. It kind of sucks the other way when we have to wind our clocks forward and we lose an hour and then you just struggle to, wake yourselves up every single morning for about a month. But I digress. So let's get into this episode of should have been on the album live stream. And we're going to talk about Vixen, and in particular, this album here. This is Vixen's self-titled album. Now, this is the Rock Candy, as they like to say, remastered and reloaded edition. On the back, it has a whole stack of extra tracks that weren't on the original. And the one that we looked at in particular was a B-side that was on the 3rd single. And what we're going to do is let's check out the ladies. There we are. That's Vixen right there, back in their heyday. And the question was raised, well, should the song have been on the album? And in the video, if you've watched the video, I definitely said yes. But what's really interesting is that Give It Away isn't on the remastered, reloaded edition. They've got Charmed Life, which we know was one of the big B-sides. It was included on the cassette and the CD version of it, which is the reason I didn't cover Charmed Life, because it was kind of out there. It was very, very well known, and it should have been on the album. Really should have been either an 11th track or replace one of the other songs. Charmed Life is a cracker of a song. But the B-side, Give It Away, isn't on the remastered edition. To be honest, when I bought this, I actually thought it was, and I misread that they have a remix of Love Made Me, which was the 3rd single on here as well. If you're curious to know, there is an extended mix of Edge of a Broken Heart. I guess it doesn't really add anything to what is a classic single. Then there's 3 live versions of Cruising, Edge of a Broken Heart, of course, and Hellraiser's on there as well. It's definitely worth getting this remastered, reloaded version of the debut album from Vixen just to have the extra stuff on there. But I do wish they had have included the extra B-side. And it's curious that they didn't. It is one of those songs that has been lost. It's not out there, which was really curious to me. And I thought, it's such a strong single. It's such a strong song. And one of the things that I did discover is they performed it live. They didn't just perform it once or twice, but they actually performed it quite a few times. If you go on YouTube, you'll see live footage of it as well. And so being part of their catalog, you thought, well, maybe it should have been part of the album as well. And I sort of relate it very closely to Warrant's Thin Disguise, which is another B-side that should have been on the album, Cherry Pie in this case. And I really do think that it's got that same sort of band love, where it's part of the set list, it's part of their touring schedule, it's part of what they do live, and it's unusual that it just never made the album. So this is a cracker of an album for a debut. And I know some people pick on me for saying debut. I say debut, debut, potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Let's just call the whole thing off. There was a comment, someone picking on me for saying debut. I grew up in the country. You know, we just made up words to suit ourselves. You know what it was like. So, but this is a cracker of an album. I said in the short form that I thought that One Night Alone, which opened side 2 of the album, should have been a single. I mean, you could also make the case for I Want You to Rock Me. I Want You to Rock Me is a really, really well-known song from the band. It's a live staple, but I just think for commerciality, just for the commercial sales, One Night Alone just has that real sing-along chorus, and the opening drums are just brilliant as well. If you are keen to check this out, it's got like all the liner notes are on there. I mean, there they are right there on the prow. The backstory is really interesting. They did appear in a film back in 1984, if memory serves, under a rather, look, I wouldn't say it was a great moniker, and under a slightly different band name. And what's interesting is if you go and watch that film, the sound of Vixen is very, very different. It's more new wave, more pop than what it ended up being, what we hear particularly on this album and future albums, where they lean more into the hair metal genre, in more rock kind of tones. If you watch that particular video where Vixen did feature, and again, you can see it on YouTube as well, you will hear the songs that they're playing very, very more electronic, very, I guess, more synthetic than what they became. And certainly there were different band members involved. You see some of the band members that make up the classic lineup as well in that particular film, but very, very different sound. And it doesn't surprise me that they just sort of left all those songs in the past. It was a different genre, different sound, almost a completely different band, even though they were Vixen back then. It was before they kind of hit this particular genre, the one that we know them for. So if you're just catching up on this video outside of live stream, please drop your comments below. I always try and answer your comments, or I always have a bit of a chat, and always love knowing who's watching these live streams as well. It helps me to keep doing these things as well. And as always, as I say in the videos, if you have an idea for a video or a B-side or a rare track that you'd like me to check out, please let me know. Email me on shouldhavebeenonthealbum@gmail.com, or just drop it in the comments below. I read all of the comments and I do answer them all. And it certainly helps me discover new bands. And this is very much where this next band came in. So let's talk about Til Tuesday. Now, I had not heard of Til Tuesday at all. Sorry, I'm just looking at the other screen next to me. I not heard of Til Tuesday in the slightest. And there's the band there. And to be honest, for me, they very much went under the radar as far as my knowledge of 80s music went. I loved 80s music. Certainly growing up in the 80s and, you know, being a teenager in the 80s, you sort of soaked that stuff in, and you really, really enjoyed listening to the top 40 or the top 20, turning on the radio and, you know, that FM station coming in, and, you know, you'd have your cassette deck ready and you'd be hitting record on the tape to make sure that you've got the songs ready to go. And Til Tuesday was a band that I didn't know anything about, to be honest. And it was only after a subscriber, a viewer, requested me to check out some songs by Til Tuesday. And so I went on this journey, and I discovered that the 2 songs that the subscriber asked for were actually on their first album, and they thought that it could have been singles, perhaps. But then I started going on this journey and discovering that, sure, there was some B-sides and some rare tracks that weren't there. One of the songs that didn't make the LP cut of Til Tuesday's first album was a song called Are You Serious? I think that was the name of it. And I did a little bit of exploration on that. I almost covered Are You Serious? It was the flip side of Voices Carry, I believe. But then I discovered it was on the cassette version, it was on the CD version. I was thinking, geez, I really like something a little bit more unknown, a little bit more Rare. And that's where I went to their second album and discovered this amazing song called Yesterday. Yesterday was on the flip side, on the Japanese edition of their second single from the second album. The second single is a much better song than the first single. Should have been the first single, to be honest. And Yesterday is this song. Now, they did perform Yesterday live a couple of times. So it was out there in the public view. It was known as far as the band went. And it's curious that it didn't make that second album and that really it wasn't released anywhere. So I thought, well, let's have a look at this one. And as I said in the video for it, it was really hard to find information about Yesterday because the only source that I really had was a couple of Reddit blogs and a couple of Til Tuesday blogs, and also this dodgy artwork cover from Discogs. And Discogs is great. It's where I discover all the back information and get a lot of the graphics for the videos that I show. But the song was beautiful. Anyway, so I upload the song and I think, okay, this is going to be good. And then I get a copyright notification, and that's fine because that's totally fine. But it wasn't for the Til Tuesday version. So I'm like, so who's done this song? And I discovered that Sarah Brightman. Now, Sarah Brightman was married to Andrew Lloyd Webber. Now, Andrew Lloyd Webber, for those people who don't know, is a music theater composer, was the composer of Jesus Christ Superstar, Joseph is Made Technicolor Dreamcoat, Cats, Evita, Fan of the Opera, Starlight Express, Sunset Boulevard. The credits go on and on. This guy has been composing for a long time. And he married Sarah Brightman around the time that they were doing Fan of the Opera. Sarah Brightman being the lead lady in Phantom of the Opera. And I discovered that Sarah Brightman, and I knew that she had done some solo work, but she released an album that had Yesterday by Amy Mann, who was the writer of the song for Til Tuesday, on it. And that's where the YouTube algorithm, the AI has gone, oh, well, this song, this version, the Yesterday version by Til Tuesday, sounds an awful lot like the Sarah Brightman version of Yesterday by Til Tuesday. And yes, they do sound very, very similar. It's definitely worth checking out and having a look because I guess in some respects, the arrangement is almost the same. I don't think Sarah Brightman adds anything to the arrangement outside of what Amy Mann's arrangement originally was. The only difference is the vocals. Now, the story of Til Tuesday is one of could have been so much bigger, could have really, been a band that we came to put up on that pedestal as a doyen in the 80s. The songs are beautiful. They are beautifully structured. The lyrics are deep and meaningful. There's always 2 or 3 levels of context that's going on. And even in a B-side like Yesterday, which, as I said on the video, should have been on that second album, has these layers of context. And thankfully, I saw Amy Mann explain that this is kind of like about depression, about the bad stuff that hangs on your shoulder, and then one day you wake up and it's gone. And I found that a really interesting insight into the song. When I was trying to decipher it myself, I really didn't have that idea, but it's great to be able to find, thank you to Google, obviously, that we get all this information, which is brilliant. So check out the Sarah Brightman version and check out the Amy Mann version, the Til Tuesday version, and let me know what you think. What's your preference? What do you like the most? Certainly, Til Tuesday was not a band I knew anything about. And like I've said previously, part of this whole experience is where you guys tell me about bands. And I go, well, I don't know anything about them. Let's check them out. Another example of that was Winger. I knew of Winger. I'd heard of Winger when it was requested. God, I can't talk this morning. Let me take a drink for a moment. Just give me a second. See, I'm not cutting that out. There are no bloopers on here. The bloopers are live. So when Winger was requested, I didn't know anything about them. I knew they were a hard rock metal band. But to dive into their history, to dive into their backstory, and also discover the albums that they created after the one that I was looking at was just excellent. And I love the fact that you guys out there throw me these bands to check out. And I have a list. Til Tuesday was on that list. I can now tick that one off. And if you go back through, you'll see on the video, on the thumbnails, the ones that are the requests. And I thank everyone who throws a request my way to check out, because again, it's taking me on a journey. I get to sort of go places that I haven't been before, discover bands that I haven't known before, and then get to present them to you. And it's sort of like this, you know, this shared journey that we're on, which I love. That's why I do these videos. These videos aren't, you know, meant to be the highest professional. I'd love to get to this great level of professionality, and hopefully the videos are of a great standard. Certainly it's something that I strive for. I'm not just going to slap anything together and throw it out there. I want to make sure they look good and they read well and they sound well, and you guys get something out of them as well. So, but you know, there's just me. It's just me working on this. I don't have a team. I would love to have a team, but the channel's got to grow a little bit before we get there. We've got to learn to walk, got to learn to crawl before we can walk and before we can run. And we're getting there slowly. And each week we get an extra subscriber. And I cannot thank you guys enough for just joining me. Thank you for wanting to subscribe to these videos and check it out. I do hope you enjoy them. And as always, drop comments. So Vixen and Til Tuesday, they were the two that I had scheduled. And then when I was looking at the calendar, I've gone, wow, April Fool's Day is coming up. And I had this idea last year that maybe I could do an April Fool's video, and the timing just wasn't quite right at that stage. But this year, April Fool's Day fell just 3 days after a Friday, which is when I dropped the videos. And so I had to do Morris Minor and the Majors. All right, so here's the proof that I actually own them. There it is. Stutter Rap, Morris Minor, and the Majors on 45. I actually have it. There it is. And and one of the things that I discovered was that Morris Minor and the Majors had a big hit with Stutter Rap. If you haven't checked out Stutter Rap, you got to check it out. You've got to have a listen. It really is quite a classic parody song. It's very, very good. But here in Australia, they had a second hit single, and there it is. This is the chorus, Morris Minor and the Majors. And on the flip side is this is the chorus, Japanese writing. And what's really interesting, they say it's produced by Schlock, Aching, and Watering Can. Now, that is a pseudonym, obviously, for Stock Aitken and Waterman. You will know them for Kylie Minogue. You'll know them particularly for Rick Astley. But I mentioned in the video that they actually do call it, this is the chorus, Japanese writing on the song, on the single. It's only in Australia that they actually had two hit singles. And I happen to own both of them. And in a weird way, so this goes way back to my teens, came out in 1987. Wasn't even a teenager then. And the idea of another boring B-side really way back then, even back then, got me thinking about what B-sides are meant to be. And always, I suppose from that moment on, I started going, you know what? Maybe there's more to the B-sides. Maybe there's a bigger story that could be explored. And to be honest, I just sort of kept that love of B-sides to myself, you know, just secretly squirring them away. I remember, funnily enough, getting Warrant's Cherry Pie and discovering that Thin Disguise was on the back. And I remember I was driving along. I just got the Cass single, and I was sitting with my aunt, and we were driving in her car, and she's like, why would you pay $3.99 for 2 songs? And I said, yeah, it's not just 2 songs. Sure, you get the hit single. And I said to her, but the B-side. And she said, what do you mean about the B-side? And I said, the B-side isn't on the album. And she said, they're always on the album. I said, not this one. And that was Thin Disguise. And it's the same thing. I guess it's that whole idea. It's those little seeds of thought that drop in, and you suddenly go, maybe there is more to it. And certainly another boring B-side is, I suppose there's a piss take on, am I allowed to say that on YouTube? Oh, I just said it. Is a send up of that whole concept that the B-sides aren't really worth it. And so for April Fool's Day, I had to do another boring B-side. It is very, very hard to make a good parody song. It's very hard to take an idea and go, okay, we're going to run with it. Let's go with it. And make it work. And even though it's called, I'm hitting my video, hitting microphone, even though it's called Another Boring B-Side, it's fascinating that they actually get it to work so well. So you have to check out Morris Minor and the Majors. Look, they're not a serious band, and that's why it was perfect for April Fool's Day. They are taking off the Beastie Boys, as you may be able to guess there. Rusty Wing, fill her up in there, again with Morris Minor. And it's just great to look at. I must admit, this is the chorus. It is a cracker of a song. It's very, very funny. Again, I suppose it takes the idea of that a chorus needs to be as catchy as hell, and certainly makes it into that. And in the 80s, who was the king of the choruses? It was Stock, Aitken and Waterman. They were the guys that were putting out like hit after hit after hit, much like Max Martin did with all of the boy bands and the girl bands and the girl artists from the 2000s, late 1990s to 2000s, and even more so beyond. Max Martin has this knack of knowing how to write a song, knowing the structure of a song, knowing how it's meant to fit together, and had hit after hit. And certainly for the 80s and early 90s, it was Stock, Aitken and Waterman. They were the ones who had that sound, who had the sound that everybody wanted to have. And so to take the second single, This Is the Chorus, and make a parody of that is also very, very clever. As I said in the video, the Japanese writing version of the song, look, I don't know if they would get away with that today. I'm sure it would cause some controversy, but again, check it out. As far as them as a band goes, they never released an album. It probably wasn't enough, to be honest, wasn't enough material. I think if This Is the Chorus tanked, that was probably the signal that, you know, we've pushed the joke as far as we can go. They're really making fun of the music industry. Look, it's hard to go past Weird Al Yankovic when it comes to parodies. He really is the king of parodies, but he takes 50-50. He takes existing songs and parodies them, but he also is able to write songs that are just insanely funny. The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota is hilarious. The Day Santa Went Crazy is one of my teenage boys' favorite song. It's a Christmas song. It's all a bit wrong, but it's still very, very funny. And I think these guys could have. They could have gone there, but maybe the well ran dry. Maybe the ideas fizzled quickly after This Is the Chorus. Or maybe the TV show that they attempted just didn't quite get the exposure that they thought it would. Who knows? But in any case, we do still have two amazing singles from them, two very funny singles, and they were just perfect for April Fool's Day. I do have a second song lined up for next April Fool's Day. I don't want to give it away. It's possibly one of the worst B-sides ever released by one of the best bands there ever was. And I'll leave you with that. I'll give you a few more clues. Massive album in the 80s. Something like 5 or 6 hit singles. And this B-side that I want to look at next year was the flip side of the last single. And it's hilarious. It's an absolute piss take. It is very, very funny. And so I'm going to save that one for next year. So that is what I got up to this term as far as the long form and the short forms were. So we had Vixen, we had Til Tuesday, and Morris Minor and the Majors. And please let me know what your favorite was. It was really, really cool to be able to do them and to cover them. Oh my God, I've been talking for what? 25 minutes already. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you're enjoying me just talk about the songs. It's quite insane. So for this next part, I kind of want to just talk a little bit about some news. Let's talk about some news, what's going on. And these are probably four things that really grabbed me over the last over the last 4 weeks or so. And let's talk about, first and foremost, the death of Eric Carmen. Eric Carmen passed away recently. For those people who may not know who Eric Carmen is, massive hit maker in the 70s, had a quiet 80s, but then came roaring back with two hit songs. One, Hungry Eyes, which was on the Dirty Dancing soundtrack, and certainly one of my favorites of his, which is Make Me Lose Control. But he is probably best well known as for the guy that wrote All By Myself. Stunning song, absolutely beautiful song, and it's a great loss to the music industry. His voice was just always perfect, always on par. Clearly had great songwriting chops, hit after hit. If you don't know who Eric Carmen is, start off with All By Myself, jump to Hungry Eyes, Make Me Lose Control, and then deep dive into the artist. Such a sad loss. And to all the fans and to Eric Carmen, we do send out our wishes to you, our prayers to you. His music will always live on, and certainly will never be forgotten in for quite a long time. So Eric Carmen. Let's talk Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi has a new song out called Legendary, and the album is called Forever. It's coming out soon. I've had a listen to Legendary, and you know what? It's not a bad song. Look, there is this whole online argument of, oh, they need Richie Sambora. And yes, look, I agree that Richie was an integral part to Bon Jovi. But the fact is that, these guys, they've been around since the early 80s, obviously their heyday of Slippery and Wet, of New Jersey, of Keep the Faith, even into, where their comeback with the Crush album of It's My Life. But, these guys are still producing songs. Are they going to, still be able to sing the range like they used to? No. John Bon Jovi has gone on record saying that he's had some vocal issues, but what's great is that the passion is still there. Is Legendary, the new single, on a par with those massive hits of the 80s? Probably not. Probably not. But that's not to say that it's a bad song. I think it's a solid song. I think it's probably one of the better ones. It'll get radio play. I think it's what's great is that John Bon Jovi still has something to say. Now, obviously, we can get into the arguments and about the validity of Bon Jovi in the comments and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure somebody will drop a comment. But you know what? For me, I still love seeing artists release songs. Billy Joel released a cracker of a single a couple of months ago, Turn the Lights Back On, and still has something to say. I think we often get caught up in this whole idea of, as we possibly get older, that we become more and more irrelevant, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think we start showing levels of insight and levels of maturity and levels of understanding that we hadn't had before, and I think that's definitely got a place to be heard. Rolling Stones coming back with a new album as well. Still something to say, still something that is relevant in today's world. And certainly, I think hats off to Bon Jovi, hats off to John and to the team. It's great to see you back singing, performing live, particularly after all the health issues that you've had. And I'm looking forward to hearing this new album. It is called Forever, as you can see on the jacket there. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to hearing it. If Legendary is an indication of the stand of the album, I think it's going to be a pretty solid album. But obviously, I will reserve my better judgment until I've heard the whole thing. But as far as news goes, yeah, check it out. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Another RIP, and I do have to thank Radio Max Music for this brilliant graphic. That's where I got it from. Is Mark Spiro. Now, Mark Spiro may not be a household name, but certainly the people that he worked with, that he collaborated with, that he wrote with are. So let's talk Heart. Let's talk REO Speedwagon, Mr. Big, Kansas, Bad English. So Mark Spiro, songwriter, producer, solo artist, as well, also passed away recently, just in the last couple of weeks as well. And again, just like Eric Carmen, his legacy will live on as well, particularly in the songs of the people that he worked with. If you haven't heard Heart's Cruel Tears, which Mark Spiro co-wrote, it's a cracker of a song. It was a B-side that came out on the Brigade era. That's definitely worth looking at. The songs, a lot of the songs from Bad English's first album, which is a cracker of an album. It's a great album to check out. Mark Spiro had a huge hand in writing and putting them together. And the bands that I mentioned are just sort of the bands that are come into my immediate worldview. But he worked with so many other people. And again, it's another loss to the music industry. It's another loss to those people who worked with him. And it's another loss to just music in general. So big shout out to all his fans, to family. We're thinking of you at this time as well. So let's finish off with one last piece of news as well. And this is one that's only just come out. Let's talk Stryper collaborating with Lecrae, the rapper, and the country artist. I think they're country, or maybe country rock, or maybe rock. Don't shoot me down. May have it wrong, of For King and Country. Now, a friend of mine is a huge For King and Country fan. She put me onto this. Hello, Andrea. She put me onto this because I'm a massive Stryper fan. And I had no idea this was coming out. The song is called To Hell with the Devil Rise. And it takes the classic Stryper song of To Hell with the Devil, interpolates it into a modern rap pop sensibility, has King and Country, For King and Country singing on it, Lecrae rapping on it. Michael Sweet does a guitar solo, a brand new guitar solo at the end of it as well. So it's very much this huge collaborative song, 3 different artists from 3 very different genres coming together. And it's on a soundtrack of a new film that is coming out as well. I had to listen to it. And you know what? I don't mind it. I can't say it's my genre of what I would normally listen to, but I got to say, it's kind of cool. It's very different. It's very different. They haven't destroyed To Hell with the Devil, and some people would argue with me on that. For those people who were Patreon members of Stryper's Patreon site, they did actually release To Hell with the Devil as a dance mix a couple of years ago. You'd have to become a Patreon member to check it out. And it, again, was a very different way of listening to it. It's a complete remix of the original song. And forgive me, I can't remember who remixed it, but the band gave them the stems of the tracks, and he cut them up and put them back together. So to hear this version of To Hell with the Devil, it's not foreign if you'd heard that previous remix version of To Hell with the Devil. I think it is sort of a step further down the track. And look, does it work? I think it does. It's very different. You have to sit back and sort of adjust to it a little bit, I think. But does it make it wrong? I don't think so. Does it work? Yeah, I reckon it does. Is it different? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're expecting a heavier version of To Hell with the Devil, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. But go in with an open mind. And I think that you will discover that, yeah, maybe this new version of To Hell with the Devil Rise by Lecrae, by For King of Country, and with Stryper, you know what? It's definitely worth a listen. So jump on YouTube, check it out. Drop your comments below. Let me know what you think. I think it'd be really cool to have a conversation about this as well. All righty. So that's it. Well, not quite. That's not quite it. What's coming up? So let's talk about what's coming up next. So I'm about to shoot a video which will come out on Friday for Great White. Now, Great White is a brilliant band. I've got more to say about it in the video. A band with quite there's quite a lot of disaster in their backstory. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on with the band that has made the news in the wrong way. But I wanted to really focus on the music side of the band and the music history of the band and try not to get into the disaster side of the band so much. So I'm going to be checking out Great White, particularly their album Twice Shy, which is just a classic album through and through. In fact, Once Bitten, the first album into Twice Shy, double album. It's not a double album. It was released as a double album 2 years apart, but the sound, the sonic, the makeup of it is just beautiful to listen to. So it's definitely worth checking out. So doing Great White, I've started drafting Meatloaf. I'm going to be choosing Meatloaf. I did mention it last time. I'm going to go back to the Bad Attitude album, which is the album from 1984. So I'm going to be looking at that as well. And then from there, I think we're going to be doing a subscriber request. I haven't quite chosen that one yet, but I will be choosing it soon. I know this is going to be bizarre. I've got Tiffany ready to go. I've got Dokken that I'm exploring as well. Yes, the classic Dokken. Some of you are going to be cheering for that, which is brilliant. I'm going to be looking at Dokken. But I've got a list a mile long. And I'm also hoping down the track, and I haven't quite figured out how this works, to do a collaboration with one of the subscribers out there who has put their hand up to say, yeah, they'd like to help out on an artist that I don't know a lot about. I know of their albums. I know their history, but they're just not a band that I necessarily listen to on a day-to-day basis. And some of you will be horrified to hear that when I name the band, which I'm not going to do now. I'll leave it till later. And but there's a possible collaboration as well. But I guess that's it from me, guys. Thank you for checking out this video. Thank you for, if you drop a comment, thank you for being here and having a look at it. These live streams, I guess, will grow. And let's hope that as they continue to grow, that we get people jumping online and spending some time with me, asking questions. I love to have that collaborative nature with you guys. But in the meantime, put your comments below. If you've got an idea, email me, suggest it below, and I'll definitely pop it onto the list and just add it. Your video might be the next subscriber one. But until next time, my name is Drew. Thanks for checking out this live stream, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Friday when I drop the video for Great White. Cheers, everyone. Have a great one.